All right. I'll call to order the May 22nd, 2017 regular business meeting of City Council. Mr. Hamp, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir, I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll remind everybody in attendance tonight, if you wish to speak under citizens' comment period time, there's a sign-up sheet in the back. The first item of business is consideration of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Item number 3 is matters from council members. Does anybody have anything they wish to present tonight?
Just let folks know we have our a steering committee meeting tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock here in the chambers, related to our comprehensive plan. And while it's a committee meeting, it's certainly open to the public. And I know I've enjoyed all of the amazing information that has been presented, and it gives you some pretty food for thought to think about the future of the city. So if you get a chance to attend, I encourage folks to do that. And I think that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? All right. Item 4A is to review the add delete list, which informed the amendments to the annual appropriation ordinance. Mr. Hamp.
So you have included in your meeting packet a copy of that most recent add delete. In the general fund, you'll note 2 adjustments to revenues. One to the real estate tax revenues decreased by $33,000. That's a result of finalizing the appeal and review process. That information comes to us from the assessor. And then there's an adjustment increase to the meals and tax based on revised forecasts. In terms of expenditures, you'll note that the 1% compensation increase for full-time classified employees is applied. It's shown in aggregate, but in the ordinance, that increase is distributed across departments, and there's an impact also to benefits. The remainder of that add-delete list reflects adjustments in order to accomplish the increase in the general fund. We've eliminated a position in the planning department that is associated with the recommended community development initiative. I think where we end up is a steps forward in that regard in terms of elevating community development and property maintenance enforcement, but not to the extent as originally contemplated in the in the recommended budget from the city manager. See also adjustments to non-VDOT paving. And then if you work your way down to the bottom of the list, significant adjustment related to the school, the first being an increase to the school funding for operating, and that's an increase of $171,959, and then a corresponding reduction to the contribution to the debt service reserve that's being established for the Waynesboro High School renovation project. The Office on Youth Fund, the Youth Corps Employment Fund, the Animal Services Fund, the Stormwater and Refuse Funds are all balanced with only relatively modest adjustments to reflect the 1% compensation increase, again, to full-time classified employees. And then the 2 significant enterprise funds, water and sewer. Council had seen a previous version of the add-delete that reflected changes to those budgets associated with the rate increases. The newest additions to the add-delete where water and sewer are concerned reflect, again, rather modest adjustments to incorporate the 1% increase for employees. In the water fund, that's about $9,200, and in the sewer fund, that's about $1,100. So no action is required on the add-delete, but be happy to respond to any questions that you might have. We'll move subsequently on to consideration of the amended appropriation ordinance.
Is there any questions?
Which position were you contemplating in the Building and Zoning Department?
So the adjustments in the building and zoning reflect probably a more realistic time schedule to bring on the zoning technician.
Okay.
The original budget reflected 12 months, and this, I think, is reduced to 9 or 10 months.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm sorry, the non-VDOT paving, no, this all comes back to our Public Works tour last fall, in that the current rate for VDOT funded paving and non-VDOT funded paving is essentially that should Public Works have an additional $350,000 and change annually, that the rate of pavement degrading and to the point of, how can I phrase this? So if you do a mile of paving that we're essentially losing more than we're offsetting, in that the longer that we wait to and continue to defer the paving program, the cost, the relative cost increases over time. So just I would be curious as to what staff's thoughts are, and I've realized finding $50,000 in the budget isn't probably a very pleasant experience anyway to try to identify that, but I'm a little concerned about continuing to defer some of the paving program, knowing that the cost over time will continue to increase.
Sure. So you have two really separate questions. One is, I think, your recollection about the overall status of paving and street maintenance in the community is accurate, that we rely exclusively on the state funds furnished through VDOT maintenance, urban maintenance funds, to accomplish our street maintenance and paving. And absent any local money applied to that effort, we do tend to lose ground. And you're right that we prioritize the streets that are in the worst condition, that if you keep streets on a maintenance schedule and you're able to attend to them before they degrade to the point where the base of the street is impacted, you're better served. Your dollars go further in that respect. This particular adjustment is applied, or is being made, to a category of expenditure, non-VDOT paving, which is local support of streets that do not qualify for urban maintenance funds. So these would be either alleys or streets that are too narrow, or by virtue of their construction are not eligible for urban maintenance funds. And we've actually in recent years made progress in that regard. During the recession and immediately following, there was very little, if any, money being applied to that effort. And those were all local funds. So if the street doesn't qualify for urban maintenance fund, the locality pays for maintenance. And so I don't recall exactly, we were at one point maybe in the neighborhood of 120,000. I don't know if Mr. Shaw recalls specifically or not, but that's a reduction to that non-VDOT paving category. And so you're right, it's a difficult choice, but it's the choice that the staff would recommend that council make.
I'm just bringing it up for you for just as a discussion item that, I mean, I think, you know, in the interest of advancing a budget that's before us this evening, I mean, I guess I could support that, but typically these non-VDOT paving segments, as I recall from the map, are also our oldest neighborhoods in the city, which arguably, you know, you could make the argument maybe don't have the greatest city investment, and yet they're paying the same sort of taxes that we're all enjoying paying, or not enjoying paying. But so just food for thought, I guess, moving forward is you know, dropping local paving operations in half, near half. So,
What was the reasoning for taking out the 50,000?
Well, currently we have about $100,000 in fiscal year 17 money that hasn't been spent yet, that we can apply to the upcoming summer's paving, and then we can apply another 56,000. And we felt like that was a pretty significant improvement over service that we've been able to provide in recent years, that we went, as Mr. Hamp says, a number of years with no money in those funds. And so we felt like that some level we look at across the entire budget and say, if we take $50,000 out of someplace else, you're going to drop below a level of service that the citizens currently enjoying. So in this case, for this year and the coming year, we will still be ahead of the level of service, even with that $50,000 reduction. That in relative terms, in other words, service that the city has provided.
So it looks like we're going forward, but we're also going backwards.
Well, yeah, but particularly since we had a period of time, which I'm sure for good reasons, we didn't contribute at all to it. So now, yeah, so we're kind of taking a step back from it. But I think it's just good for, just we're all aware of it.
Anything else?
That's all.
Anything else? All right, there's no action required for that item. We'll move to 4B, is the second consideration, adoption of the amended annual appropriation ordinance for fiscal year 2018. Mr. Hamp.
So it's fairly straightforward at this point that the appropriation ordinance reflects the changes that we've just reviewed in the add-delete list and the programmatic objectives that council had previously communicated. We would need a second this evening, and
Okay. Before I vote, I need to make a statement. Whereas, as a duly elected member of the City Council of the City of Waynesboro, I am called upon to debate, consider, and vote upon the budget for the City of Waynesboro. And whereas I am also currently employed full-time by the City of Waynesboro, and as such, I am a member of a group of 3 or persons, the members of which are affected by the proposed 1% raise to all full-time employees of the City of Waynesboro. Now therefore, I, Elzina Michelle Anderson, do hereby declare that I am able to participate in the adoption of the budget for the City of Waynesboro fairly, objectively, and in the public interest. This declaration is made pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3114.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. The amended annual appropriation ordinance was introduced May 8th meeting, so now is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Are there any questions or discussion?
I think Freeman did.
If not, do we know who introduced it?
I thought that Mr. Freeman did, but okay, so we're fine.
Okay, so we're good. All right, thank you. No questions? Then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Item 5 is to consider introducing an ordinance appropriating $4,888 from the courtroom security reserve to the general fund for landscaping improvements at the Gorsuch Building for fiscal year ending 2030-2017. Mr. Hamp.
So the introduction, the title of the ordinance it's accurate to say that these are improvements, but it probably is more informative and helpful to know that this request comes from the sheriff, Mr. Joe Harris, and that they've identified that at the current height and thickness of the shrubs and landscaping in place at the Gorsuch Building presents several public security and safety concerns regarding court personnel and individuals attending court. And it's the sheriff has worked with the Department of Parks and Recreation to consider improvements that primarily involved removal of larger shrub and replacement with low ground cover material. It will not be, this work will not include the entire perimeter of the building, but certain key areas of security concern around the building. And this is being funded by the Courthouse Security Reserve. These are fees and fines paid to the court that are dedicated for the exclusive use of courthouse security. So there's no impact to the local tax base or general fund. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from anyone? All right, if not, is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. And we'll vote on that at our next regular city council meeting. Item 6, communications, correspondence, and calendar. Mr. Hamp.
A reminder, I think you've probably seen invitations, but worth noting that on June 3rd at 3 o'clock, the city will conduct sort of an official opening, and not a dedication, but an opening of the second phase of the Greenway. That ceremony will occur, or will start at the Shiloh Baptist Church trailhead. That's June 3rd at 3 o'clock.
Thank you.
And I don't have anything additional tonight.
Nothing else. That moves us to item 7, which is citizens' comment period.
No one has signed up to speak this evening.
All right, then number 11 is our motion for us to adjourn.
So moved.
Then we are adjourned. Thank you.